So I've talked about it in multiple videos now, but you probably didn't watch them. And hey, no, that's fine. I don't even care. No, I'm just playing. Look, I get it. Okay, they're not very good. You know, it's not like it hurts my feelings or anything. I'm just saying, it's fine. Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop now. I'll stop complaining. Okay, gee, man. Anyway, there's this idea that I've talked about in multiple videos now, and I talk about it a lot in just my day-to-day. I think it's a very fascinating idea about how you can't necessarily prove other consciousnesses. If you've heard me in talking, if you've watched any of my other videos, you've probably heard me touch on that, especially recently. I've been touching on it a lot. It's an idea that I've played with in my head for a really long time, but of course it's just really fun to think about to me. How you just can't necessarily prove that other people are conscious in the same way you are. Of course, that you don't know if their self-awareness is really on the same level as yours, or if it's even there in the first place. And of course, I bring up this idea in many conversations as a result, because I just love talking about it. But of course, people are very off-putting of the idea at first, and it's very weird to me how people don't see it. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about in this video, because so for me, the idea that you can't really prove other people's consciousnesses is it's just kind of an idea that's there, and it makes a whole lot of sense. But of course, when I bring up this idea to people, they're like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And I'm just sitting there like, do you not instantly get what I'm talking about? Like, it's kind of crazy to me that people don't just understand this at first glance, because I think the idea is very simple in its nature. Like, I don't think it's not a very complicated idea, so you can't prove other people's consciousnesses. And they're just like, what? I was like, think about it. But then they fight me on it. I'm like, what do you mean? It's pretty straightforward what I'm talking about. It's just you can't look at me and know that I'm self-aware. It's that simple. People are like, no, look, I'm moving. Like, yeah, I see that. But like I said in another video, you did nothing more to me than prove that your brain has these survivally necessary functions. Okay? Yet you can make words and move around. That doesn't mean you're self-aware of yourself doing so. What are we talking about? It's annoying, but I get it. I said it in the last video I recorded that it makes sense because, of course, I've thought philosophically for a while now, and by a while I mean probably around like a year and a half. I've really been messing around with philosophy, especially lately. So my brain is very used to these sort of abstract, I don't even know if abstract's the right word, complicated ideas, complex ideas that require a lot of critical thinking and just something I think about all day. Right, so I think in a different way than other people. Not necessarily in a elevated state like I am better than them. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. If they did this exactly what I did, they'd be in the exact situation, right? Like, replace our two lives, same brain, just replace the lives. One of us never looked at philosophy, and that was me. I would just be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? Now, of course, my ego says I would probably pick it up quicker than other people, but of course, I can't guarantee that. I just like to think it. Now, obviously, this extends broader into the idea that I wanted to focus on for this video is just how people don't really think philosophically or critically anymore. And, I don't think it's really hard to see why. I'm gonna be honest. So, let me paint you a picture, okay? I was in school last year. This time last year I was in school. Awesome. Crazy story, right? That's it. That's all I wanted to say. I'm kidding. Okay. I was in school, okay? Everybody would use what? Let me hear you, class. That's right. ChatGPT, the greatest invention of all time. Nothing's ever come close. Honestly, probably a bigger impact on society than the light bulb, electricity, or the internet. Easily. Not even close. Now, I'm not going to get into my thoughts on AI. I'm not a... Spoiler alert. I'm not a big fan, alright? But not necessarily in the fact that I don't think that technology has zero benefits. I think it definitely has benefits. But I think, of course, the way people are, it makes the technology just an objectively bad thing because people are just using it to replace their own thinking. Right? So what I would do in school, again, hopefully nobody hears this. Hey, don't go ratting on me now. What I would do in school, I would use ChatGPT on my assignments. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. All right, I would use it, and people probably knew I used it too. I wasn't exactly shy about it, right? But for me, right, I use ChatGPT on my assignments so I could go do other things that were mentally stimulating to me, right? So I would finish my assignment with ChatGPT, and I would go read a book, for example, instead of just doing an assignment that I didn't really care about. You know, I wanted to focus on the things that were interesting to me, the things that I wanted to do. And of course, those things were things that were mentally stimulating, whether it was thinking about philosophy or programming for a long time. I would just bring my laptop to school, cheat on an assignment, bring out my laptop, start programming. It was cool. That was all I did, right? But other people, I noticed, they would kind of just sit there, use ChatGPT on their assignments, and then go scroll on their phone. On TikTok. Okay? Which is objectively getting a hell of a lot worse, by the way, because now we just have AI slop on there as well. Look, I've seen people scroll on TikTok recently, like, seen as in looked at what they were watching, and I'm just like, how the hell are you mentally stimulated by this? Okay? Like, I get it, but like, once you look at that and be like, man, what in the world am I doing? Because, dude, every time I would watch short form content, I know, it's crazy. I was just doing all this criticism. I've done it too, okay? Recently, though, completely stopped. Do you know how? I just removed YouTube from my phone, put an extension on my computer that just turns off YouTube Shorts. Oh, it's so great. It's so great. Because YouTube Shorts was the only one I'd do, because, dude, I would see a video. I was like, you know, this looks kind of cool. And then, of course, the finger moves. And then it moves again. Then it moves again. So I get it. I get how people get to that point of just scrolling. But, dude, literally every time I would scroll, I'd be done, and I'd be like, man, what did I just do? Like, that's really what I decided to do with my time. It's just a horrible thing when you're done. Okay? So I get it. But when that's all you do, when you use ChatGPT on your assignments, you're skipping all the cognitive work that needs to be done to complete that assignment. And then what do you do with that extra time? You don't do cognitive work. No, you go scroll on your phone. Think about how many kids are doing this now. Just think about it. Literally everybody in school? Yeah. No, you're probably right. That's probably all what they're doing. Because, of course, now schools should go back to paper and pen. I'll say that till I'm dead, okay? God, I always go on these side rants, but I don't care. The reason for it is because even if they use AI, they have to write literally everything down. So they're going to remember it more just by how the brain works. So even if they use AI, they still have to think about it. So they might not be learning as much, but they're going to memorize it for sure. Anyway. Yeah, that's really what's happening. So, of course, I'm not really surprised when I have these sort of conversations with people and they don't really understand what I'm talking about. Or I can't necessarily convince them what I'm talking about, even though everything I'm saying is factually sound. They don't have a level of critical thinking that is necessary to really understand these ideas because, of course, they just kind of assume. That's what our brain teaches us to do, is it teaches us to assume things about the world, right? We assume that other minds exist because we are human. We see other humans. Oh, okay. Other human, other brain, other consciousness, right? But of course, we have no actual evidence for the fact that other consciousnesses exist. I don't even know if that's really, I don't know if consciousnesses is a word, but I'm going to keep using it. Okay. See, that just shows how stupid I am too. We're all stupid together. Okay. I don't even know if consciousnesses is a word. It just sounds so weird to say. I'm gonna look it up right now. Actually, look at that. Power of the internet, man. You know, okay. I know I'm doing this right now, but I still don't know how to spell consciousnesses. Conscious or even consciousness. Oh no, it's a word. It refers to the plural of consciousness. So I'm glad it's a word. Look at that. I'm using an actual word. Can everybody clap for me real quick? Thank you. Hey, the one who did clap, I appreciate you. All right. So yeah, so like I said, we have no actual evidence for the fact that other consciousnesses exist. Of course, our brain likes to assume things and assume we understand the world, right? That is the main thing that this is about. Our brain likes to assume that we understand things. And because of that, it's so uncomfortable to go against those assumptions. Right? So, for example, when I talk to people about how you can't prove other consciousnesses, they go, "What do you mean?" And they start performing actions. One time I literally asked the person, I'm like, "Okay, how would you prove to me that you are conscious?" They said, "I could look in a mirror, I could recognize myself, and relay that information to you," is essentially what they said. And I said, "Okay, that's fair, but I said prove it to me, not yourself. You did nothing but show me that you can look at something, say what it is, and then tell me that you saw and said what the thing was. What is that? That shows no awareness behind it. That just shows that you're able to do things. That's not at all what I'm talking about. Consciousness is the awareness of the self. In no way did you show me you are aware of yourself. You just showed me that you can point out your existence. Like, that's not at all the same thing, because it doesn't show any awareness behind the thoughts, feelings, actions that actually did all that. Like I said, I'm not necessarily denying that other people are conscious. I'm just saying you can't prove it. And then, of course, people are like, what do you mean? What do you mean? It's like, yes, you can. And then, of course, I asked the same person, "Okay, how would you like me to prove to you that I'm conscious?" They said, "I don't know." Yeah, that's the whole point. That's what I'm saying. I can't prove it to you. You can't prove it to me. What are we doing here? And, like, I don't know why people fight me on this idea so much. Because, like I said, I'm arguing from a factual standpoint. Like, it eventually devolved into arguing on what consciousness is in the first place. How? And, like, I'm using the scientific definition of consciousness, and they just didn't agree with me. Okay. Like, how do we get here as a society? Think about this. Like, people just won't accept an idea that just makes so much sense as you can't prove other people's consciousness, because they don't want to deny their own assumptions of how the world works. Which is just so... It shows so much about the society and what we're doing to ourselves. We're just shooting ourselves in the brain and just being like, "That's fine, I don't even need that thing. I got ChatGPT to do all the brain for me. Who needs a brain? I got a computer." You know what I mean? That's what it's like. You know, and it's hard sometimes to communicate with people on any, like, philosophical topic. And it's really annoying to me because it's a topic that really intrigues me. Like, I love to talk about this stuff. But every time I talk about it with people, they have either no idea what I'm talking about or just fundamentally disagree with me because they can't see an obvious fact or they can't see past their own assumptions. And of course, I'm not saying these people are incapable in any way. Like I said, the brain is malleable. You can make it do things that it wasn't able to do before, right? Before you learned math, you had no idea what math was, but eventually you learned math. And now your brain is better than it was before at doing math calculations. The same way, if you think philosophically, or you think critically rather, your brain will be better at doing that. But people just don't do that. So of course now we end up in the situation where people don't accept the fact that you can't prove other consciousnesses. And then I was just finishing a conversation with one person, and they're like, "I'm going to ask my super smart friend about this." And I literally said, "Okay, if they agree with you that you can prove consciousness, then they're wrong." Like, I don't know what you really want me to do. It's like, okay, because your super smart friend says it, you're just like, "Oh, okay, it must be true then." Nah, that's what it is. Silly me. I forgot, my super smart friend. Let me go check with them first, and then they'll tell me what I should think. So, let's, and for all I know, that super smart friend was ChatGPT. They turned around. You know what? I actually think you're really right. Actually, no. Now that I thought about it, what you said was not just intelligent; it was brilliant. Okay. Those are my words. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like talking to people nowadays, because it's hard. There's so many levels of things that are just so hard to bypass, because people are just so addicted to just entertainment, and I talked about this idea in a previous video. Don't feel the need to go watch it, but it's pretty easy to explain. It's the fact that society wants to make everything easier, right? In this whole AI revolution is just proving that even more so. We're so desperate to make things easy that we're willing to replace our own thinking to do that, to make it quicker, to make it easy. We're willing to replace creativity to make it quick and easy. You know what I mean? Like, that's really what this is about, I think, anyway. Like, that's what it's really come to. And of course, in doing so, talking to people sometimes is just a miserable experience. Because, of course, nobody ever thinks critically. I shouldn't say nobody ever. 5% of people ever think critically. That's what it feels like, anyway. But I hope you have a good day. So